Robbie, if you and Danielle can come up, because we're going to offer, well, we're actually going to issue a Commander's Award to Danielle and then a Secretary of Army of Valor for Robbie. So let's go back to December 29th, 2016. I was sitting in my office talking to my DPM and saying, things are really slow around here. I think that I'm probably going to check out after lunch. About 5 minutes after that, we received a phone call that we had an active shooter at the Lake of the Pines. And I said, are you kidding me? And he said, no, we actually have a real serious situation. So we immediately went into action. I contacted General Hill to let him know that we had an active shooter event going on at the Lake of the Pines. As we were getting blow-by-blow commentary, we understood that Robbie had stepped up and de-escalated the situation. There was a guy came into the lake office and he was complaining about the facilities and also about the possible closure of the lakes where he wanted to fish that afternoon. He was extremely agitated, upset. We had 2 volunteers there in the office along with Danielle, and Robbie was in earshot of the entire conversation. So his training of over 30 years actually just kicked in, and he knew that this guy was going to be more of a problem. When he left the office, he went out to go retrieve a weapon. Unbeknownst to Danielle or the other 2, Robbie walked over to the door to take a look. And indeed, the guy came back with a 9mm pistol. So before they could lock the door, he was already in there and on the 2. Robbie quickly engaged him into a conversation, began to de-escalate the situation, where he eventually got the guy to put the weapon down while Danielle called 911. We all do training, you know, fire drill training. In the Army, we do battle drill trainings, but you never know what you're going to do until that situation occurs, right? So our 2 volunteers, we went through this active shooting drill quite often, and we told them what to do. So Robbie told them to get out and move. Well, they froze.
Well, not quite. And they didn't move, so I felt like I couldn't leave them there with, I had an escape route, but I couldn't leave them there to face this guy, so I came back.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Thank you for stepping up and taking some ownership and not just receiving all the glory.
No.
So he de-escalated the situation. Danielle alerted the 911, and they came in and they arrested the gentleman. They went out and checked his car, and he had additional weapons as well. But that could have been a really, really bad incident. So 30 years of engaging the public with your mind and convincing them and enforcing laws with with your authorities only, no sidearm or anything. I think all of that kind of training helped you for this day. And we thank God so much that you were there to kind of de-escalate this thing, because it really could have went south.
We all went home with the original parts that we came with that day.
All right. Well, great. So we're here today to, first, if you could step aside, Robbie, to award Danielle normally I would present her a Commander's Award, but since we have our boss in here, I think it would be appropriate, sir, if you would do it. If you can step over here.
For her superior actions in the line of duty at the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Operations Division, Piney Woods Region, Lake of the Pines Project Office during an incident with a disgruntled and armed member of the public on 29 December 2016. During this terrifying event, Ms. George showed great courage and professionalism in executing the proper response under armed threat by locking her door, alerting other staff, and calling 911. As a result of Ms. George's outstanding actions, authorities quickly arrived to subdue the individual, no one was injured, and lives were potentially saved. Mrs. George's dedication to duty and commitment to excellence reflects great credit upon herself and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
So Danielle, we're the Army Corps of Engineers. A lot of times you think of that means we're all soldiers, but in the Army Corps of Engineers, what really makes our organization so great is our great civilian workforce. And in the Army, we kind of have an unwritten rule that we never leave anyone behind, okay? And we all stay as a team. And no matter what happens, good or bad, we're going to stand together, whether that's the Fort Worth District or whether it's the team out there in that office. And that particular day, people could have done different things. People could have left and gone and only worried about themselves. But the fact that you and Robbie really stepped up together and you made that critical call, when you could have been nervous as can be and just froze, we want to be able to recognize you for your great service and just to continue to reinforce that when you have that urge to do the right thing, it's always right. And just continue to step up. And sometimes you might want to, do something different. But here you did exactly what we expect you as a great civilian to do: step up and take care of your team. Let's give Danielle a big round of applause. About 30 seconds. Say something to the team.
You know, I didn't expect to get anything like this. I just wanted to make sure we were safe, and I would do it again. I just wanted to make sure we all were home. And I'm so happy for Robbie to, not leave, and he went back for those, make sure the volunteers were safe, because they didn't know. So I'm just happy for that.
Great.
Robert L. Henderson is awarded the Secretary of the Army Award for Valor for his heroic actions on 29 December 2016 while assigned as a Natural Resource Specialist, Lake of the Pines Project Office, Fort Worth District, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Mr. Henderson demonstrated great courage and professionalism in dealing with an armed threat and potential active shooter situation. When the gunman entered the office, Mr. Henderson diverted the gunman's attention from two volunteer personnel by engaging him in conversation and calmly convincing him to put down his weapon. As a result of his actions, the individual was arrested without injury and no one was harmed. His strength of character and calm resolve under intense pressure exemplify the Army values of selfless service and personal courage. Mr. Henderson's fearless dedication to duty is a great credit to him, the Corps of Engineers, and the Department of the Army.
Robbie, on behalf of all of us, there's a lot of people that have a lot of awards hanging on your walls, okay? Very, very few, if any, are signed by the Secretary of the Army. I know the Secretary of the Army, Ryan McCarthy, and this is a big deal that he took the time to do this. I'm afraid that in these days, we think of a hero as maybe somebody on TV, somebody that scores a big touchdown or scores a bunch of basketball goals, or somebody who's a movie star. And sometimes heroes are created in Hollywood, okay? This hero is created in the Corps of Engineers. And this is a hero that doesn't sign up to do this normally, but you do what your nation needs you to do. And that particular day, again, you had a lot of choices. And without even thinking about it, if you thought about it, you probably would have said, "Well, this might not be a smart thing to do." You immediately said,
If I'd been given more time to think about it, yeah.
it goes back to stepping up, and this individual was at least the demeanor and the method of how you talked him through this allowed him to have some options. And it wasn't where, I'm going to try to tackle you. It's just, you got to think through what you have ahead. And I'm not sure exactly what you said, but you gave enough of an option to him to say maybe he wants to continue to have some other choices in his life and be able to save both the people on your team and, in essence, be able to make sure that he was be able to come out of this without getting in a firefight somewhere. So I can't thank you enough on behalf of the Secretary of the Army, everybody in the district here. And just know that this is what we expect Corps of Engineer employees to do the harder right, and to be able to make sure that when the challenges are there, that you step up and you tackle those challenges, and you do it in a manner which is befitting of not only a great Army civilian, but a great American and a great American hero. Let's give Robbie a big round of applause. I'd like you to take the floor and make some comments here.
Well, I'm not really sure, but I knew, in talking with this individual, I knew pretty quickly he was disturbed and not just had complaints. I was trying to answer his complaints in a calm manner at first, and then I realized that he definitely had some mental issues, and so I just talked to him calmly, agreed with him, and tried to calm him down. And he would go to the door and like he was going to leave, and then he would come back, and this went on for 30 or 40 minutes. before he went and retrieved the weapon. And the only thing I knew to do when he came in the door was just ask him to put the gun down. I don't carry a sidearm. I wasn't even armed with, didn't even have pepper spray on me at the time. So the best thing I could think of to do was try to talk him down off the ledge. And luckily he turned the gun over to me, and until at the time it wasn't an operable weapon, so I knew there was not much danger of it other than him hitting somebody with it. But, at that point, and I didn't know the 911 had been called at the time, but at least, you know, we were able to calm him down, and so he was not, did not show any more aggression at that time. But of course, when he was arrested, he tried to be aggressive again, but by that time they had him subdued. So anyway, I'm just thankful that everybody was, nobody was hurt, and everybody was able to go home to their families that day. That was my main goal in trying to talk this individual down.
All right. You can go ahead and have a seat. We'll continue on. Juliana, say if you come on up. In the Corps of Engineers, we have our number one pacing item is our people. And without our people, we can't do anything. We can't build anything. We can't go inspect anything. And we sure can't fight disasters without them. During these Hurricane Harvey, our crisis action team stood up immediately. We've been through several battle drills, a lot of TTXs, all notional things that kind of happen. And the reporting systems, you know, real stale, kind of like stuff that goes on. But when it was time for us to go into action, Juliana said, she was our CAT lead, our crisis action team lead. Not once did she complain about coming to work. Her organizational skills, her determination to communicate externally with our emergency managers, and as well as districts, our subordinate, or our sister districts, and the division was absolutely phenomenal. I came into the, what we call our EOC, our top, about 2100, and I saw Julie still there from 07 this morning, and I asked her what was she doing there. She said, sir, there are people that are not in their homes. They're not sleeping in their beds. They're not hugging their kids. Some people are lost. She said, I want to be right here and be a part of this. I want to help as much as I possibly can. And she did that over and over. Every night I try to kick her out and tell her, hey, look, you got to protect your battle rhythm so you be functional here in about 7 to 8 days from here. This is not a sprint, but it's a marathon. So thank you so much for your dedication, your leadership to the team. And she had little to no experience on kind of leading that type of thing. She jumped right in, took the bull by the horns, and did a great job for us. So we greatly appreciate all that you do, Julie. And so with that, we recommended you for a form from the Chief of Engineers.
So Julie, there's there's times where it's kind of slow, and we don't have a lot of disasters, and things are probably kind of boring in the ESF3 and the emergency readiness lane. But the last 7 weeks, we've been pretty stressed, okay? A lot of things going on. And it's when people like you step up to be able to really make a difference and be able to take some of that workload and to continue to be able to take care of those people first, that we really want to recognize for your professionalism, your dedication, but as the Colonel said, your passion of trying to make sure you're taking care of everybody else out there. So on behalf of everybody in the district, everybody in Corps headquarters, congratulations on that job well done.
How long have you been with us a year?
I have been here for a year and a half.
Good.
Yeah.
So,
Starting that up.
good. Matt was new to our emergency management team. Never fought a disaster. Never, not with the team, did any of those things. So Harvey hit, we immediately, detached him to go to the state to be the liaison for us to fill all requirements and ensure that they were coordinated and in the right place. Matt never complained. He went there and he did his job. After, the flooding kind of increased down at Galveston, we took him and we launched him to Galveston to work with the EM team down there. So he did that for about a week. He was our journeyman, and he continued to work down there until Galveston got things under control. After that, he came right back where he saw that we were about to stand up our RFO, and he came back, did not take any leave, no time off, and he jumped right back in the fray, looking for ways to assist us. So thank you for your effort that you provided for this team, and your willingness to go to the sound of the guns. We really do appreciate that.
Man, that's what being an Army civilian, a Corps of Engineers civilian really is all about, is continue to step up when called. And not just doing what you're expected to do, but doing those things that are really above and beyond. And what the Colonel explained and what you did during those times really is exemplary of the kind of the performance that we expect out of great people like you. So congratulations on a job well done. Thank you, sir.
Cool.
Hey, come on up, Randy. So Randy Cephas is my deputy chief for PAO. Galveston had an opening, one of their PAO deployed. And so they were on cover for a while. And they said, hey, can you send us someone down to be our chief PAO? And we said, absolutely. Randy raised his hand and said, I'll go. Send me. And he went down, and I'm not sure if he thought he was going to have a vacation down in Galveston, enjoy the beach. Lo and behold, Harvey hits. And he, being a former lieutenant colonel in the United States Army, he responded, appropriately. He took on all of the interviews. He answered ungodly amount of inquiries. He in fact never left the district for the first week because there were so many calls, doing so much prepping everyone for interviews, ensuring that everything was coordinated. And if you guys don't know, that was a well put together thing by Galveston and with the division. They did a great job of handling that. There were some contentious points in there, but we stayed nested together and spoke with one voice, and that was because of Randy Cephas. So we did all the coordination.
So Randy, we have great civilians, we have great stories in the Corps of Engineers. Sometimes we might not do as good a job as telling them all over the place, but when you have something that's happened, it's pretty easy to be a PAO if everything is all guns, everything is rosy and there's nothing going wrong. But when you're in the middle of a fight in a storm, and especially when there could be a lot of different opinions as to what happened, and a lot of people that have different ways they want to spin that, whether it's political agendas or other agendas, to be able to be balanced, to be able to make sure we're telling the right story, be a little bit defensive to make sure that someone's not saying the wrong kind of things, and to be able to continue to champion the great efforts of the Corps of Engineers, especially in what everybody in Southwest Division did in Harvey. It is a hard job, without a doubt. And I do think that what the division did, Galveston, Fort Worth, was really a case study of how to do public affairs the right way, how to get that out, and to be able to make sure that the right story is being told, and we're being responsive and ready. There's times where I go on Facebook about 11:30 at night. I get tired of doing regular emails, so I go on. I think I'm members of like 70 different Corps of Engineer Facebook pages. And not only, so you guys would put something on, and somebody would come back in and say, you guys are wrong, and we think maybe it should have been, and you guys would answer that and say, no, here's what we really did. I mean, responsive and interactive to be able to make sure that the local people understand ground truth and really make sure they got a good story. And that was because of guys like you and your effort and your leadership. So congratulations on a job well done. Thanks.
All right, hey sir, we're gonna recognize a couple of division folks first. But before we do that, my name's Colonel Paul Owen. I'm incognito today. I'm showing solidarity with our deputies in civilian uniform today for the Deputy Commander's course here in Fort Worth District. And before we talk about Jay Townsend, I did want to just mention about Robbie one more thing real quick. And for our new commanders that are here, if you got park rangers out there, these guys have an incredibly difficult job, and what they do every day is pretty incredible. So, Bobby was armed with what? What was he armed with to face this person? Absolutely. I mean, he's got his pens in his pocket, basically. He may have had some pepper spray somewhere, but that's it. And he's facing a person with a loaded weapon, ready to do some damage, and that takes a lot of courage. So you think about what our police officers go through. That's good, but when you got a holster on your hip, you can be a little braver. So I certainly appreciate the courage that Bobby faced to do what had to be done in what is our front line, our cavalry with the American people, and all over a fishing license, our fishing area that was probably we weren't going to shut down, but this guy thought we were going to shut down, and he was pretty upset about. So I just want to take a couple seconds and say thanks again to Bobby and Danielle. And, you know, that's a big deal too. That award, we didn't really talk about it too much, but I'm thinking, you know, every civilian award has a military award equivalent. This is I think it's at least a Silver Star,
Yeah.
if not higher than that. So that's a big deal, and not often rewarded, and certainly Secretary McCarthy signing it makes a big deal. So thanks, Bobby. Okay, so on to Jay Townsend, sir. So Jay is usually sits about 100 feet from me up at the division headquarters in Dallas. He is our deputy PAO. I think that's your title. Regional Public Affairs, Deputy Regional Public Affairs Officer. Jay has a really great expertise in social media, and you know, all the things that he was really essential in helping out some of the stuff that you talked about with Randy doing down there. So big, huge part of our success in our social media piece. Jay, you know, went from the division headquarters about a couple days before the storm. We asked Jay to go down there. Jay's wife was 9 months pregnant, and gave birth. I think you were there for her birth.
A few days after I got back.
So he, you know, left his family in a difficult situation to run to the sound of the guns, and just did an incredible job, sir, and being part of that successful media campaign that we had as part of Hurricane Harvey.
Jay, and I'll just build on what I said about Randy, but really this is about, you know, making sure that the right message is out. We don't want to just toot our horn. We want to make sure that people are informed. But this is a big storm. It was really the first big test of the administration. A lot of people looking, high stress, high adventure, a lot of different teams flying in and out, whether it's the president, the vice president, you know, chief engineers, whatever. And the bottom line is you guys did a phenomenal job of continuing to be able to be proactive, have strategic messaging, and on the other hand, make sure that you were collaborative and to be able to work the social media piece. And that's something that I think the Corps is going to get better in, on how can we continue to be able to work on all different venues that are out there on communication, and you guys really have done a phenomenal job. This storm's not over, okay? Although you might think that the actual natural part of it is over, this is going to be with this division for several more years because we still have remnants to be able to work through. And it's something that the public affairs is going to have to be a key player on the division commander's team as we continue to be able to control the narrative and make sure that everybody just doesn't have their own opinions on this. How do we continue to support where the commander and the legal team need to go, while at the same time still being compassionate about those that were affected out there? So Harvey will be with SWD for years to come, and we need the public affairs team and their expertise on board to be able to make sure that we're continuing to have a great key enablers like you. Okay? Let's give Jay a big round of applause. Right?
And we have one more award to give, and this is to Doc Sterling. And Doc is our water management specialist at the division headquarters. So Doc, you know, got really involved in the very intricate management of the decisions that were being recommended for Addicks and Barker.
Yeah.
So the releases that were going on there, you know, we kind of had 3 levels of in the E&C community that were all talking. Rob Thomas with Lars Zetterstrom at the district level, Doc Sterling with me at the division level, and Eric Halpin with you at the headquarters level. And you know, that I think we had a very good, deliberate conversation with incredible expertise and dedicated civilians that, you know, were fully invested in making sure we did the right things there. So I just wanted to give a chance to recognize Doc Sterling for all that he's done in support of Hurricane Harvey there.
So Doc Sterling, this is tough because you've got an engineered system that many people have many opinions as to whether that was designed right, was it operated right, and I think over the last 70 years there's probably a lot of people that could have done a lot of different things, but the bottom line is we had what we had when Harvey came, and you guys did a great job. And I was with Paul and Doc Sterling. I think on Friday I flew into New York City midnight, and I was on Fox and Friends at 6:30 the next morning, and a lot of questions as to what's going on. And although we don't necessarily have our hands on the knobs, in essence, there's a lot of knobs we can turn to be able to keep all the water in the right place, and a very complicated system with a lot of different equities on all different angles. And you guys did a phenomenal job of continuing to be able to manage that, get the story out, and to be able to mitigate everything we could have done, and billions and billions of gallons of water. 44 feet this thing filled up in a period of 2 or 3 days. And it's something, I think it's $11 billion. How many billion gallons? 26 billion?
100
120,
140
140 billion gallons of water. That's a lot of gallons of water. So, but congratulations on a job well done. We're going to continue to keep needing your expertise as we work through this in the next couple of years, and knowing that your science and your engineering will continue to serve the division very, very well. Okay? Let's give Dr. a round of applause.
Okay, so that's all we have. If you have any closing remarks for us.
Cool. All right.
All right, so, hey, sir, thanks again.
Yeah.
The Fort Worth District is hosting the District Commander's Course Phase 2, as well as the deputies. And of course, you know, given the portfolio we have, I can't do all that planning myself. I can't check the block and make sure that everything is taken care of. We can't do that without a dedicated staff and our #1 pacing item. So I'd like for Renee, Rena, and Matt to come up. These are the guys that made it happen, and I appreciate all of your assistance and doing a great job.
So those that are in the room that might not know, I mean, we do this very, very well in the Corps of Engineers. We actually have in the room right here a bunch of brand new commanders. They've been in about 90 days. We bring them back in. This is the second phase. We had them in Washington, D.C. in June. Bring them back down here. Now they've got 90 days under their belt. Really be able to have some very, very frank dialogue. Every one of them wrote an assessment to me on here's my perceptions of the first 90 days. And so for the last hour, we've gone through how can the Corps get better? How can we raise the bar? How can we continue to be able to build a better quality product at a better value? And then we've also got a bunch of the deputies in the room. And I have said for several times, there's 3 main dimensions we have in the Corps of Engineers. We need to continue to strengthen our foundation. And the deputies are the ones I lean on in doing that. Making sure that every day we do routine things routinely, we take care of people, and where we can streamline our process is very, very important. Number 2, we've got to deliver the program. We've got to do a better job at executing our program because the nation needs us to step up. And that's exactly what the commanders are doing here to be able to learn what are better ways of doing that. And number 3, and what all strategic leaders have to do is they have to achieve a vision. Where are these districts going in the next 10, 20, 30 years out? How do we push the Corps of Engineers to a better place? And how can we continue to make sure that everything our nation has expected us to do for the last 242 years, how can we continue to build on that, not only to serve our Army, to serve our joint forces, to serve our interagency, but even now to continue to serve our Civil Works program and to be able to work throughout all the disaster response. So you 3 have helped facilitate that dialogue. And I'm not sure that every one of these will say thank you to when they walk out the door here. But the bottom line is the ability to bring leadership together with a lot of key players on the second row back there. We've got a lot of Corps headquarters. General Van's in here with us, and be able to have some pretty frank dialogue on how can we continue to not only give them the tools they need to run their district, but to allow them to be able to back brief to us where we can make changes at headquarters to continue to set the whole team up success. So on behalf of everybody here, all the students, thanks for a job very, very well done. And Calvin, your leadership as well. It took a lot of time for the district to put this on, but I'm glad that you were able to bring your 3 key people up here to be able to fix it. Let's give these guys a big round of applause. Hey, let me just end here real quick on a note, because I know we're going to get ready to go back into class, but talk a little bit about storms. So when you think about storms, we actually have 5 major storms we're working right now, okay? And we almost broke them up in a couple different bins. So you know Harvey. Harvey came through and hit Texas dramatically. Obviously a lot of water issues, a lot of flood control issues out there, some degree of debris, not an awful lot of roof and blue roofs and housing, but a great response by SWD. About 10 days in, we're sitting down here in Texas wondering how to make sure we're taking care of Harvey, and the guy started briefing us, hey, something's happening on the west coast of Africa. Watch this one, it's coming around. And we're thinking, oh man, I'm not sure that's going to hit us. Maybe it'll go back up into the ocean. And here comes this thing called Irma. Irma came in, and Irma hit the Virgin Islands and wiped out the grid on the Virgin Islands. A dramatic devastation of the Virgin Islands. Kind of missed Puerto Rico, and then whacked Florida hard, okay? All the Keys, a lot of electricity out. Florida, we don't ever talk about, but Irma in Florida, I was in Connecticut driving back down to Washington, D.C. a day after Irma hit, and I think I had 800 power trucks I passed driving down. Just hundreds of trucks coming to Florida to get electricity up and running. We don't even talk about what happened in Florida, but a phenomenal job by Jacksonville of getting Florida up and running. We called Wilmington and we said, hey, Wilmington, you got to go to Virgin Islands. I flew into Virgin Islands the day after the storm hit. I was there the first day in, one of the first airplanes, and I took a helicopter flight. The entire grid of Virgin Islands just devastated. Houses, roofs, all blown off. So Wilmington comes in and does a great job of beginning to get debris, roof, and grid missions running temporary power in Virgin Islands. Come to find out, Brian, about 3 days later what happens? Another storm on the west coast of Africa. And we're thinking, we've already had two, what is this thing coming, okay? And so here comes Maria. One of the biggest storms that's actually hit down in the Caribbean. Maria kind of bounces over Virgin Islands, but just whacks the heck out of Puerto Rico. And the entire grid, pretty much the grid is taken down. Unbelievable devastation of the houses down there, the water systems. We have 5 doctrinal missions we normally do. We get ports up and running. We worry about our civil works functions, our locks and dams, our dams down there. We worry to a degree about debris removal. We worry about housing and roofs. And we do temporary power. We put temporary generators. Normally about 40 to 50 we bring in. They're there for a couple weeks and they all go away. This rebuild is probably going to be a year long. And we're in charge of doing it. Normally the Department of Energy is told to do it. They failed to be able to have the capability, and Secretary came to see me, Secretary Perry, and said, I need you guys to step up to take this mission on. So we're doing the grid rebuild. The only thing that's going to help us is we're buying time with generators. So we've got about 230 in today. We're going to put probably another 400 in. We'll be running Puerto Rico on generators for 6 or 7 or 8 months. In the meantime, with Huntsville, John Hurley's efforts, the help for the guys at headquarters, and great work by SAD, we brought in massive contract capability to be able to rebuild that grid. So here's the Corps of Engineers running Harvey, running Irma in Florida, running Irma in Virgin Islands, and reacting to Maria. Here comes Nate coming right up in Mississippi Valley. Luckily, when you build resilience back in, you're able to handle that storm. Nate went right through Mississippi without any big devastation, and we were able to basically handle Nate without a lot of problems. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, here's California. If you don't know, we got turned on last Friday night for $251 million of debris removal. This is people that lived in these neighborhoods and storms came through and took out massive developments. All the houses are gone. So we're going to come back in, remove all that fire debris so these people can rebuild their home. So I was in the White House last Friday morning and briefing the cabinet. I mean, the whole cabinet is sitting there. And we're talking about what's our plan mainly in Puerto Rico. And one of the head guys says, do you have enough depth in the Corps to be able to do this? If you haven't seen it, I wrote a letter about 3 weeks ago. And I said, we have to focus on these disaster responses. But at the same time, we've also got to worry about our regular mission. I'm not going to tell you that the VA is not still one of the most important customers. And anywhere out there, your area and resident officers are just as important. So when you're doing, whether it's a VA, when you're doing the Mosul Dam, where you're working about designing the wall down on the border, or all the other missions in just the regular, normal $31 billion program, we got a lot on our plate. And that means leaders are going to step up. Leaders are going to be ready to jump in, take charge, and make things happen. And we need great people like all of you that got coins today that without an awful lot of guidance are ready to leave your families, go into harm's way to be able to make sure we're taking care of these people. So it's a time in the Corps where I'm probably the proudest of what I've seen in my several years in the Corps, an awful lot on the plate. We've got to do that, though, in a manner that we can continue to be steady in the saddle, be very deliberate, make sure that we're based in engineering and science, our acquisition processes are correct, and command climate and the way we take care of people has to still be one of our most important priorities. Because as much as we're pushing people hard, we've got to watch it. How do we rotate them through? About 1,300 people deployed right now, and how do we continue to get those people with a spell to be able to continue to step up? So when I'm standing here talking to President Trump in Puerto Rico 2 weeks ago, and the cabinet right after that, I just can't even tell you the accolades that people give us. Now, there's a lot of people that want to know, how come you aren't going to be faster? How come you can't be able to do everything all at once? The bottom line is, we stand for doing the right thing for the right reason. That's what the Corps is all about. And your Corps is doing a phenomenal job stepping up. It's because people like we saw here today, standing in front of the flags, and leaders like you who understand at the end of the day, we have great civilian technicians that give us guidance on how to approach the mission, but we need the ethic of the military officer hand in hand with the civilian leader to be able to continue to be able to execute the mission, because delivery is what it's all about. So Calvin, with that, thanks for a chance just to kind of update everybody, and glad to have you all here, and I'll pass it back to you, okay? All right. Thanks, guys.